Okay, I'm live, baby. And now we can go live on Instagram as well. There we go. That seems to have worked. So we are live again, baby. 7 days in a row. Not necessarily on every platform, but we're getting there. So for those of you, well, we'll wait a few minutes for people to log in. I had absolutely no lead time. Oh, we see Porsche, Nikki, Rachel, Suhu. Great to have you again. People in my house watching me do lives. Jake, good evening. Stream is working. Happy to hear. Like I've mentioned before, 455 Buick, what's up to you as well? Osha Birth, hi, Nikki. We're pushing 10 now. That's good. We're in the double digits after a minute. So if we just keep this up, after a few minutes, we'll have 100. I know it's like, okay, you've been pushing the end of the genital mutilation of children for a long time. And I'm obviously not alone in that. Like Ocean Birth, for example, your epic help. But soon we will be doing something about it beyond, and protesting and educating, and all those things are very good, but we need to change the laws, right? Because laws are a statement of societal values, and it's just about time that we as a society state that, look, we're not going to throw our babies to the wolves, right? We're going to protect them from like this pretty egregious, absolutely egregious harm at birth, and we've got a real plan for that, right? And the nonprofit that I founded and am president of, Intact Global, we are hosting a major conference that is going to precede historic litigation that will be occurring March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon. As John says, are you cold there in Cali? It's Los Angeles. It's actually quite warm in my office. I actually had the AC on earlier, so no, I am not. Good points. But it does get cold some nights, and I actually had the time to take a nap today. So this is like, it's a good day for me. We are making huge, let's say, climbing the hill, making huge progress on many fronts, but it requires 14-hour days. But we do what we got to do here. And as John says, we need to change the enforcement of existing laws. Well, John, if you want to, I got your email. I haven't opened it, but don't worry, I haven't opened practically any emails today, so it is what it is. I'll try to do it tomorrow. But when you say enforcement of laws, what particular laws are you talking about that we need to change enforcement of? Because that would be in the executive branch. And so me or anyone else who wants to vie for an executive level position, would have the power to enforce the existing laws in a different way, execute them in a different way, right? So happy to hear what you think. And speaking of the conference, here's the link below. Clickable link for the conference is probably in the description as well. So definitely get your ticket for March 29 to 31 Intact Global's conference. To be most of the leaders in the intactivist movement are going to be there giving presentations, TED Talks, Q&As. We're going to have strategy sessions, both formal and informal. We're going to have a beautiful reception. It's all going to be hosted at the Sentinel Hotel, which is it's one of Portland's finest, finer, if not finest hotels. Has a lot of deep history. It's a luxury hotel, but it's not like the Ritz-Carlton in that it's expensive for the sake of being expensive. It's really kind of like a Marriott Hilton level expense if you use our room block that we have on that link. So definitely if you're flying out there or traveling, definitely check out Intact Global's room block as well. And yeah, once we have a few more people log in, we're going to talk about the actual lineup of the conference. We're selling, about a ticket a day. We're going to have like a fairly packed house, which I'm excited for, right? Especially at this rate. We have 8 attorneys who are intactivists, all giving presentations on different aspects. We have different leaders of intactivist groups like Doctors Opposing Circumcision, GALDEF, Intaction. They're all going to be there, and they're going to give their pieces on what is the most exciting or impactful of what's going on and how we can work together as a movement. And if this is an important movement for you, and it should be, equally protecting all children from grievous harm when they're minors and can't protect themselves, then this is an event you got to get to, right? And it is fairly straightforward. Portland is, as one of my board members, Shay, would say, is the nicest airport in the country. It has light pass all over the US and some internationally, so it's easy to get there. 15-minute Uber drive costs $10 from the airport to the hotel. We got a great room block. We got events lined up for 2.5 days. And it's going to end with my law firm and the Oregonian law firm, who was involved in a case that went up to the Oregon Supreme Court about circumcision. We're going to actually have a press conference in the Courtyard Square. We're going to give little stump speeches, and we're going to actually sue the state on constitutional grounds. It is a historic lawsuit that literally could lead to ending the genital mutilation of children. This is a plague, a virus, an epidemic that has been with us societally for well over 2,000 years, and we can end it. And the goal of Intact Global is to end it in the immediate future, and it's totally viable. And a lot of people, a lot of old guard movement, oh, it's never going to happen. Look, we could do this in a matter of a couple of short years, especially with the online and media. I mean, this is the venue. You guys, you're the superheroes. So thank you for joining. So anyway, Maddie, great to see you again. Hello again. And I asked John Atkinson before what laws need to be enforced. He said child abuse, sexual assault. Oh, sorry, can't say that. And mayhem. Fair enough. So Jake said, I made a custom warning sign. Beware of the foreskin bandit. That's funny. Maybe wear it to the hospital next time, although I'm there very rarely, which is a good thing. As Maddie asked, will John Geishiker be at the conference? I certainly hope so, because he's given a talk, right? He has affirmatively represented that he's going to be there. I look forward to meeting him, meeting him again in person. But so he'll definitely be there, and hopefully others from Doctors Opposing Circumcision will be able to make it as well. As for people here, is Potts here? Maybe he'll sign in. Maybe he'll make it to the conference. I've invited him many times, and I suggest that he keep his identity anonymous, and then you can talk about the intactivist tea, and then we could talk about maybe I'm Potts, right? Can you imagine? No, I'm too busy for that. If you're comfortable answering, are your parents supportive of what you're doing? Do they feel guilt for not having protected you? Well, my mom was pretty supportive in the beginning because she's smart and, wasn't like ideologically invested in mutilating infants like a lot of people are in America and certain countries in the Middle East. So, I mean, now it's just an unfortunate event. My father, we had a real bitter dispute about, and that's, it's detailed in the Harvard play, so you can go watch that. But, we're all on board. The Klopper family, we no longer circumcise, and, they're not doing live streams every day. But, I'm not really someone that it's easy to get in front of and dissuade from doing anything. Anyways, you can ask the defendants in my civil litigation practice, right? It's you see my law firm, it's not a thing you want to see on the other side of the V, right? So, I mean, they're passively supportive, you could say. Maddie Campbell, not yet. Potts has not arrived, but we're looking for you, Potts. By the way, I'm your Reddit mod as well as on Discord. Buick, that's epic. I didn't know. I need to check Discord more often, but honestly, like I was saying before, I haven't even checked my emails today. I mean, I'll scan the law firm emails to see if anything urgent comes in, but I just have been flat out working on a response to the IRS about our exemption status. And what else have I been doing? That was the big project for the day. And that, took all day and much of yesterday. And then I was also doing other stuff as well. So anyway, as Maddie said, well, Buick, you're the man, or the woman, but probably the man. So I appreciate your help doing that. That's important. And we want to engage and build these online communities. And I think once we have the conference, we push out all the media, obviously going to be much higher quality than the stream, which is limited by the upload speed, the variable upload speed of my internet. But we're going to have professional videographers, will be professionally edited. We're going to push that out. And also, what was I going to say? We are going to live stream the whole thing as well. But, live streams, they have variable quality, but also, you can ask questions and you can engage, which is cool. Although you should go to the conference, go to intact.global/conference and definitely get your tickets. If you put this in your URL bar, you will be able to get tickets. And we are going to, I should say, walk through the conference schedule. After, we'll give it another 10 minutes or so. But yeah, so Maddie Campbell, we love your sister for protecting your nephew, right? Her son from genital cutting. That's excellent. So yeah, talking about MGM is like when Morpheus reveals the truth of the Matrix to Neo. That's very funny and absolutely true. It's kind of like there is no way that we have let things get so out of control that we have mutilated over 100 million citizens, right? Like we have wounded them in a very personal, intimate, and permanent way. That was the only thing that really took me longer than it probably should have to realize the harm that was done to me and all of my fellow citizens. It is so egregious and it is so common that it's hard to think, oh, if it's such a horrible harm, how could it have happened to so many people, right? That is really, but it has. We are where we are and we have to fix it. We have to take a sober analysis of where things are at so we can improve them, primarily for the children that are to come. So that's what we're at. So anyway, we've got big news. And, Peter Adler's on the stream. He's actually in the StreamYard, which, we'll discuss how we actually chat into the public chat. Honestly, I don't know, but maybe Ocean Birth can give us the rundown either during or after the stream. But Peter Adler said the full New Hampshire House is voting Wednesday whether to end Medicaid coverage of circumcision. The bill passed the House committee 10-8. Right? So, which is great that it got out of committee and it's going for a vote. And so we will know on Wednesday. And what is today? I believe it's Thursday. You lose track of the week when you work every day of the week for 4 weeks, right? But we'll find out in 6 days. So, on the 13th Daily Live, we'll know, are we moving in the right direction? And if they lose the vote, it's not that we're moving in the wrong direction. It's just we're not moving, necessarily in the right direction in New Hampshire. Although you just got to continue to push it, right? So that's what the strategy of Intact Global is. We're going to sue Portland, Oregon at the end of the March 29-31 conference, and you should go. But also, we're going to sue a whole bunch of other states right after. Right? If we raise the resources and the social support needed, which is why the streams is to promote the conference. The conference is to promote the litigation. The litigation against Oregon, the litigation against Oregon is to promote other litigation. Because once you start suing one state, it could become like a big issue. Once you start suing 3 states, 5 states, 10 states, 20 states on a similar constitutional theory of equal protection, that all children should be equally protected. It's right in the logo. It's so emotionally compelling, right? It is, and it's easy to understand that we should equally protect children. That's why we're doing this. So anyway, so thank you for that update, Peter. And just so you know, Ocean Birth will copy and paste your comments into the chat for now. Because Peter Adler has a private chat to Ocean Birth, who's the moderator, who's also epic. So his philosophy states, I'm from New Zealand. I didn't cut my 2 sons after learning more from all of you in America. I'm so glad I didn't do it. Well, I'm sure your sons are very glad as well, as are you. Yeah, because it's not really that common in New Zealand. It was. And then do you know what they did? They defunded it and it went to near zero. See, parents will not cut their kids if they have to pay for it. And a lot of this is based on the reasonable inference that if a medical procedure is covered, then it promotes medical health. But when you have a for-profit healthcare system like America, it's more, how do we get as many procedures done as possible so we can, make as much money as possible? That's honestly and unfortunately what the analysis is in a lot of hospitals around the US, right? And, I've litigated against a few healthcare entities, not circumcision cases, but, fraud is rampant. And it's really not, what's best for the patient. It's what's best for a bottom line. And so, there can be some good things about, obviously market capitalism, free market economics has good and bad things, but it can't be rampant. And there are some things that economics should not be a part of. I think prisons is absolutely one of them. I think it is horrific to make that into a for-profit system. But, healthcare, you can argue, well, the extra money gives us more funding for like cutting edge, research and all that good stuff, which, is probably true. So anyway, as philosophy says, yes, it's not common at all. Some cultures here do it. My dad was pushing me to do it, but when they said what they do, I was like, no, it sounded too brutal. Well, at least your dad, or at least someone told you what circumcision was, right? Because a lot of times they don't tell parents at all what it entails, what the baby's going to endure. It is literally horrific, painful torture. They tie them up and they saw off like the most sensitive part of their genitals. So it's like, dude, there's no way this can be legal. But it is in culture and you could say tradition, but just cultural inertia. Oh, well, it's been done, so it should be okay. But that's how a lot of the like horrific abuses and civil rights historically have been committed as well. They were kept going, so it was easier to keep doing them because they might have benefited a small portion group of people. And right now our focus is on medical professionals who are abusing their fiduciary rights to patients by essentially performing medically unnecessary surgeries and amputations on minors, which is awful. So as Rachel Suhu, she's an obstetrics, she's Jewish like I am, and she's an intactivist, so she's epic on many fronts. She said, I've had to take care of babies after the procedure. It's horrendous. Yeah, and I'd love to hear more, but I'm sure that the babies are just like totally zoned out. Well, there might be a spectrum of how should I say, reactions to this extreme trauma, which is, as we know, supremely unnecessary. So I'm going to come back to this comment before, Maddie. Who's your favorite artist? I don't know. I fluctuate in my genres, but let's, since we're all here, just reminding you, we're here for Intact Global's conference, right? This is what the daily streams are for. It's March 29 to 31 in Portland, Oregon, right? It's at the Sentinel Hotel, and most of the leaders of intactivism are going to be there. It's all going to be beautifully filmed and live streamed. But if this is an important cause that you're passionate about, protecting children from extreme harm, you definitely got to be there. I'm going to pull up. So right here is the link to get your ticket, right? I know it doesn't look like a URL, but it is right there. So, there it is. Go to intact.global/conference, right? And get your ticket. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put intact.global/conference in my URL bar and press enter. And what you're going to see, I'm going to share the screen here. Here we can see, you're going to come to the Intact Global website, right? And here we have the 2025 Intact Global Conference. It's going to be March 29 to 31. That's a Saturday through a Monday, because on Monday the court's open and then we can file our historic lawsuit, right? It's going to be in Portland, Oregon, right? So the weather might be like 60 degrees if we're lucky, maybe a light jacket. And it will be historical as we launch our first constitutional challenge to end male genital cutting of children. Also, intersex would be included, although we don't have an intersex plaintiff. We're happy to get one if there's any intersex individuals in Oregon who've had their genitals cut without their consent and they want to protect other people from that. We're also going to unveil our plan to end the forced non-religious cutting of children and introduce like a coherent program as to how we're going to work together as intactivists, right, to move this forward. And we're going to have a lot of leaders of the intactivist movement there, including 8 attorneys, on discussing various legal aspects, because I believe we have the ground level support, but we need a tip of the spear, right? Pun intended. We need legal organization as well. We need to organize all this grassroots support. We need to form coalitions of the intactivists, because the opposition is very good at coalitions, right? We need to put our differences aside and say, look, we're going to work together to do what's best for the kids. So that's exactly what we're going to do. As Vidantron says, thank you for all you do, Eric. I wish I could be there. I wish you could be there. That goes to you, Vidantron, and everyone else watching this stream. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at intact.global/conference. So here is the link to get your tickets, right? We still have early bird. It's $100 off, and you get a swag bag. So you get your Intact Global hat, you get your Intact Global shirt, you get your Intact Global canvas bag, which is pretty nice, actually. It could be a gym bag or whatever. And it's also comes with 2 lunches, a reception at the Sentinel Hotel, which is like, top tier, nice, classy hotel, snacks, coffee, you name it. And, might just cover our costs, might be below cost actually, but that's okay because we want you there. Right. And then you can get your discounted rooms as well. They're about $40 off per night, which is significant. And it's a really cool hotel as well. So bring your boyfriend or your girlfriend, your significant other, bring your fellow intactivists. Don't come alone if you can. If you have other people who are passionate about this, and I know of at least a few who are bringing their partners, my girlfriend will be there hopefully Sunday and Monday. And so we are going to, you only need to book 1 room if you have multiple people coming with you. Here you get your tickets, and here you get your room rates. So you just click on that. You're going to go to Ticket Tailor. That's the name of the website. And you just do select tickets, and you could pick, early bird, you get 1 of those, get 2 if you need. And then you take it from there. We also have a founders dinner, which again, we're pushing up. Oh, there's only 6 remaining. Damn. Well, that founders dinner is going to be great. Multnomah Whiskey Lounge, very cool, underground, speakeasy, somewhat bougie. It's kind of like, think of like the founding fathers, Paul Revere in the pubs in Boston where I'm from. Like, that's where we're going to be. Those are the people who have the resources and the commitment to really like, look, this is the coalition. How do we do this in the immediate future? So there's only 6 tickets left. That's definitely something that is worth going to, especially if you have the resources and the commitment. And then we have the champagne brunch. We've got 88 left, right? So we got some space on that one. This is how you get your ticket. Then you just click on next, and you fill out the form, put in your credit card, you name it. My mistake. You guys couldn't see, and I wasn't looking at the comments. So let me adjust my sharing. How do we do this? I see. Share this tab instead. Okay, so when you are here on this tab, you click on buy early bird tickets, and you're gonna come to Ticket Tailor, right? And here this is the Sentinel in Portland, and here you just select your ticket, and you can get the early bird. You get 1 or 2, right? And then we have some optional events. So this was the Multnomah Whiskey Lounge I was talking about. We have 6 left, right? It's $300. And then we have the early bird ticket as well, right? And then champagne brunch, we've got 88 left. It's essentially a booze cruise after we do our press conference, which you should also sign up for, and that's free in the square. And after we file our constitutional challenge and we have all our speeches from lawyers and plaintiffs and doctors and you name it, then we're going to go celebrate, assuming, we'll probably need to sell at least 20 more of these tickets, I would say. So we'll see how it goes. But we're going to do a lot of local promotion too as it gets closer. So talking about what the actual conference entails, coming back here, join our Discord, a little plug for that. Thank you, Buick. Is what we're going to have. It's going to be leading lawyers, activists, and thought leaders for 2 full days of presentations, networking, and strategic planning, right? It's going to be at the Sentinel Hotel, which is storied. It is beautiful. I know I got my butt on a plane from where I'm at in Los Angeles, California, and it's going to look nicer soon when I replace these curtains. And I flew up to Portland, Oregon. Took me 2 hours, super easy. And I checked out at least 10 venues with my lead videographer for the conference, Mark, and my lead volunteer in Oregon, Brian. So Mark Halliston, Brian Turner, we went there and we checked it out. And the Sentinel was, head and shoulders above the rest. I actually had my room comp from 2 different hotels, and I felt bad I didn't pick them, but they weren't the best. The Sentinel was the best, no doubt. Especially for the price, it's got character. It's not a chain, not that, necessarily against them. But the conference tickets will have 2 catered lunches from Jake's Catering, which is actually like phenomenal as far as hotels go, a reception, coffee and snacks throughout. And, you'll hear speeches from all the board members, right? What are we actually doing at Intact Global? How are we working together? You're also going to hear speeches from various presidents of leading non-intactivist organizations like Doctors Opposing Circumcision, GALDEF, and Intaction. So we have John Geishiker, Tim Hammond, and Tony Lasquardo are all going to give speeches. And so, a little comments here. Paul S., go Intact Global. I love it. A few other comments. Oh, we'll get back into the damage from what you're saying, Rachel. I know it's horrific what's being done to babies. But yeah, so what the lineup is going to be at the conference, and you can go to the link there, is, we're going to have some networking in the morning, come have some coffee, have some snacks, see what's going on, check in. And then I'm going to give a speech, the future of intactivism, right? And hopefully the future is not that long. I think we're kind of in endgame territory. I know it doesn't feel like it, but a lot of causes switch, to mainstream appeal in a few short years, or a few years, right? And I think intactivism definitely could be one of them, especially if we leverage strategic constitutional litigation, which is the plan, right? So I'm going to give a talk about that. Intact Global's treasurer, Joe McCormick, he's going to talk about, how do we fund this, right? And as I've said before, and as I'm sure many of you know, circumcision is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States, right? When you talk about, you may charge $1,750 for a circumcision, up to that. And there's 3,000 circumcisions a day, 365 days a year. 1,750 times 3,000 times 365 is 1.9 billion, but that doesn't include what we pay to revise the circumcisions that have like terrible complications, which might be as much as 10%, might double that. Then we sell the foreskins. Well, by we, I mean hospitals and doctors without any ethics, sell it for probably hundreds of millions, which goes to another industry, which is worth hundreds of millions, maybe billions. So we're talking, this is a multi-9-figure industry, right, of harvesting the genitals of our children. So, and they don't just roll over and say, oh, we didn't know it was unethical. Of course they know. And I've confronted them at conferences before. It was like dropping a grenade in the middle. And everyone's like, oh, shit. But it's like, how do you defend, taking tissue from children who would not want to give it to you and making products out of it? You're literally harvesting the genitals of children. I can't remember her name. But the point is, so they're not going to go easily, but at the same time, we are not on equal positions. They are mutilating infants for profit, and we are trying to protect children's bodily integrity, health, and protecting them from harm. So it's not like a 1-to-1. It's probably 100-to-1, right? Maybe 1,000-to-1. So every $1 million they spend trying to propagandize mutilating infants, we might need to spend 1,000, right? If they have $1 billion industry, we might need a $1 million industry to combat it. Right. And so, a multi-million dollars might sound like a lot of money, but it is not nearly as much as what they're making mutilating infants. And we just need to have enough. We don't need a ton, but we need enough to, maybe sue 30 states, right? That might get us over the line right there. So Joe's going to talk about various strategies on how we're going to fund this, how we're going to make this go, which is supremely important. Shay Johnson, he's a good friend of mine. He's actually in my zip code, kind of a neighbor, not immediate neighbor. And he used to run big intactors groups on Facebook. And he went and became a licensed therapist, and you can't, sometimes you can't do both, but he came back into here, and he's going to talk about, well, how do we grow communities, right? Because we need to work together to win. The opposition is very good at working together, bonding over ritual mutilation of infants, or, making money off it, one or the other. But we need to have better communities on our side, right? So he'll discuss that. And then Will Wong, who's a good friend of mine. He is a marketing and online wizard / genius. And he's going to talk, okay, but how does that look? Not just building communities, but how do we actually effectively collaborate online, right? And you'll notice right now we are collaborating online. It is a stream. I am talking into the ether, and you guys can hear it from home, sitting on your couch, doing whatever it is you're doing. But we're going to need this to expand to a point where, we're getting thousands of people every day. We're getting fired up, which this is changing history. We are literally leaving the child sacrifice timeline where we sever parts of our children to the gods and ensure that they bleed and give it to the deities. We are going to move away from that. And that is historic. It is of extreme importance. And there should be a lot of people online who are interested in this, especially considering this particular practice has maimed over 100 million Americans alone. And we're probably talking 1 billion worldwide, right? Talk about male and female genital cutting, which, both are horrible. So, and as Peter Adler says, all genital cutting, absolutely. We're trying to end all genital cutting, right? If there were, we're 100%, as Maddie says, Peter Adler's a boss, right? Yeah, no, he's hardcore on the front lines of this, and we're very grateful to have him. So going back to the conference lineup, Peter Adler will be giving a talk. We'll get there. And then thus far, maybe Carter Steinhoff may be doing anatomy of the foreskin. We'll see. Tim Hammond, he's the director of GALDEF, and they support a lot of impact litigation as well. They're actually supporting the Portland, Oregon lawsuit, not just by being there and giving a talk. John Atkinson's on the board as well, who's on the stream, but also with a $10,000 pledge, which is super helpful as well. So thank you, GALDEF. Thank you, John Atkinson. Thank you, Tim Hammond. Thank you, everyone at GALDEF. And so he'll be giving a talk about, what does GALDEF do? How's it different from Intact Global? Intact Global is focused on equal protection, right? Whereas right now we are focused on, that's what Intact Global is focused on. GALDEF, if you go to their website, there's a whole host of different legal causes of action that they kind of support with lawsuits. And Peter Adler will go into what's a legal cause of action? Something you could sue on. It's like a legal right. Typically, you have the legal right to be left alone, to not be assaulted or having parts of your bodies amputated, right? Like circumcision. You have the right not to be subjected to unnecessary cutting. So anyway, and then we have John Geishaker, the executive director of Doctors Opposing Circumcision, director of Doctors Opposing Circumcision. He has a great talk that I've heard. I didn't hear the talk, but I read the letters that it's based off of, and I'm very optimistic on that strategy. I'm very excited to give him a platform to talk, and we're going to get that filmed as well. So if you can't make it to the conference, which you should, you'll at least be able to see it. And then we have Michael, and so as Peter Adler said, 13% of the people in the world are circumcised. And what's the world population? Let's just Google that right now. Population of the world. I know it's increased precipitously. 8 billion. Wow. So if we do 8 times 0.13, we're talking 1.04 billion, 1 billion, 40 million people approximately are circumcised, and that's just a euphemism, meaning they've had parts of their genitals cut off. And how can we be in a world where we've cut off 1 billion and 40 million individuals. We've literally sawed off parts of their genitals without their consent. It is totally batshit, totally batshit crazy. It's absolute lunacy is what it is. So I have some starred questions. Let's take a look. So Maddie, my mother's a registered nurse and she refuses to talk about the subject. That's super unfortunate. And as Peter said, he just finished an article showing it's indefensible, which is excellent. And the ripple effect, as Oceanbird said, of maiming 100 million children and individuals is incomprehensible. I mean, there's definitely macroscopic negative consequences in America. I mean, we are one of the warmongering nations, as is the Middle East, where they mutilate all their infants. I don't think that's a coincidence. So, and as philosophy says, I'm honestly shocked at how common it is in America. Yeah, well, that's what this effort is. This is like a shock therapy, right? We're going to rip the nerve out and say, yo, look, we're not going to mutilate infants anymore. And there's definitely, we're gaining a lot of ground actually, but there used to be huge professional ramifications for speaking out about this. Social stigma and also just like religious opposition, which I was actually kicked out of Harvard University. I worked there for 8 years, right? I was going to go to grad school there, give a big talk that I got a standing ovation, prolonged standing ovation, 200 people. And they said, well, you're anti-Semitic and you're fired, right? So, there's, and I'm Jewish. I mean, if I can't criticize Judaism, who can, right? Now, obviously, they've lost some grip and certainly moral authority, with the mass unaliving happening in Gaza. So, and obviously, losing Israeli lives is terrible as well. So there's a lot of loss there. There's also a lot of genital mutilation, and a society who is literally insane enough to mutilate their infants is probably also lacks the self-awareness to address the root causes of its bitter conflicts with its neighbors. Oh, maybe I'm partly responsible. Yeah, maybe you are. Right? So anyway, not to get too much into geopolitics. What's the word of the day, Klopper? Well, I was having an MVP of the day, like an MVP commenter, but I actually, I could have a word of the day too. So, I'm not totally sure. As Buick says, over 1.7 billion males cut around the world. That sounds more accurate. So if, let's say, 1/3 male, most of them are Muslims, right? Muslims and Americans are the two big cut groups. So, if you're American and, remember, you and the Muslims, that's who you're mostly in bed with when it talks about cut penises, which is weird. But let's see, if there's 4 billion males and about 1/3 of them are circumcised, so that's, actually, so I think it is more than 1.04 billion. 4 times 1/3 is 1.32. So I think that there are, maybe 1.3, 1.7 billion cut males, which is just totally nuts. But anyway, going back to the conference, because we have Michael Abanika, who's going to give a talk. He's a good friend of mine. He's a human rights attorney from Uganda. He runs a private practice there. He does a lot of great work both in Uganda, and he has a coalition of litigators, human rights attorneys in Africa. We can learn a lot from him and what he's done in Africa and how we could do that in America. Because, America's huge. We got 51 plus jurisdictions, and it's practically a whole continent, or at least half of one. I mean, so as big as Africa. But it's more probably culturally homogenous. But yeah, Michael Abanika is borders on a legend, and I very much look forward to hearing his talk. And then we're gonna have a panel, right? So we have 2 panels the first day. The first one, the board of directors, talk about, okay, this is who we are and what we're doing, right? And then we're gonna have a panel of the Intact Coalition members. So we're gonna have Tim Hammond, director of GALDEF, John Geishiker, the director of DOC, our liaison for African human rights and protecting children, Michael Abanika, and hopefully Tony Lisquardo can join that as well, if he makes it on Saturday. Sunday, we're going to have, Tony Lisquardo will start off, and he is one of the leaders in the effort to get circumcision defunded and from Medicaid in New Hampshire, right? that goes well, then you do it to other states. You just keep going, right? And the more states you do, the easier it is. You build momentum. So what he's doing is exceptionally important. We're happy to hear from him, kind of a little TED Talk style. Okay, how do you do it? How do we help? You know what I mean? What's the importance? Then we have Zenas Barr, who has done similar litigation about 30 years ago. So again, that was probably a little too early. I don't know if we were ready to address the epidemic of infant genital mutilation in the mid 90s when he filed this challenge. He was suing a state using the federal constitution, 14th Amendment, equal protection, which you can do, but it's harder to do. So he was ahead of his time, right? You could argue we are ahead of our time, but I don't think we are. I mean, the millennials, there's no like moving force to continue this. It's just cultural inertia. And there's a whole bunch of entities who make money doing it, right? So they're not going to stop unless they're forced to stop. And Peter Adler, who's joining us in the stream, but also most importantly, joining us at the conference, which you absolutely should as well. Get your ticket, right? You can just go up to this page. I'll post it, and go to intact/global/conference. I guess you can't see me pointing at. And once you go there, you'll come to this page and click early bird tickets right here. So anyways, getting back to Sunday, Peter Adler is going to give a talk, and he's going to explain, okay, we all have certain legal rights, right? You have the right for the person you contract with to come through on their contract. You have the right to not suffer personal injury, right? Someone breaking your arm or hitting you or spitting on you, or defaming you, reputational injury. You have the right to not suffer property damage. Like if you came into my office, start smashing the mic and the monitors, that's my property. I have the right to be free of property damage. And if any of these rights are violated, you have the right to trust your attorney. If your attorney betrays you, you can sue him. The same with your doctor. They're called fiduciary rights, or your business partner. And so if any of these legal rights are violated, you can sue someone, right? You take them to court and say, look, I want to get compensation for the right you violated. And oftentimes a lot of litigation is, how do we put a dollar number on that right? And so Peter's going to talk about all the different ways that you could potentially bring a lawsuit for being circumcised, right? Constructive fraud, because the doctor's defrauding you and enriching himself by performing a medically unnecessary surgery. So it's not medicine because it doesn't help the patient, right? Or a battery, or you name it, right? So that'll be interesting to hear. It'll be good to know, because it might lead to many other lawsuits and plaintiffs. Then we have Brad Kane, who I learned to litigate under in Los Angeles. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great political strategist, a great messenger. And he's the one who really emphasized, look, the winning message is not, and again, I love all activists. But if you're really leaning into the genitals of children, Mountain, defend, Mountain, defend. No, go down. I got you, buddy. I've taught my dog to defend, right? And he's a pretty big dude. His name is Mountain. But I ordered some groceries, and so I'm hoping it runs down. There he goes. Because there's at least three sets of stairs, maybe 5, depending on how you count them. And so anyway, dude, stop. Hey, Mountain, bye. Good boy. So yeah, going back, and he's going to talk about messaging. Like, what is a winning message? And it's not, the infants are dying, and you're cutting their penises and they're bleeding everywhere, and you're sexually maiming them, and all that is true, 100%. But how do we reach the mushy middle, as they call, right? And the mushy middle is the vast majority of Americans who have no strong feelings, no education on the topic, but we need to win them over. And the mushy middle, how we win the mushy middle, we say, look, we need to protect all children, right? That's it. It's a few words, right? Winning are very easy. Hope. Barack Obama, hope. What's that mean? Well, it sounds good. It's one word. What about Donald Trump, who won twice? So, whatever you feel about him, he's, he won. He's a winner. Make America great again, right? What does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things to different people. Same with hope. We want to protect all children. What does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things, but in the context of, mutilating their genitals. We want to protect them from genital cutting. So we want to protect all children equally. That is the message of the lawsuit. Brad Kane's big on messaging. He's very good at it. He's also a brilliant litigator, and I learned to litigate from him. At a certain point, it was time for me to go off my own. It was the best decision I ever made. But, working for Brad was also the best decision I ever made. So, anyway. And then we have Deborah, a Shaggian, and she grew up in a conservative Jewish household, and her talk is called Dangers of Cultural Conditioning, because, I grew up Jewish as well, and so we all thought, oh yeah, it's totally the best, right? It's in your interest to be circumcised, and then you find out, oh my God, not only is it in your interest, but it's like a hardcore injury. It maims children. It is outrageous child abuse, and it harms the individual for the rest of his life and his sexual partners too. So she's going to talk about how dangerous it can be if you just have the blinders on and say, oh, this is what my culture tells me. And so we really value her insight. We look forward to her talk. And then John Siller, who is the one who got me into law. And he's likely going to talk about how do we make, he might talk somewhat about parental and children's rights, but how do we make intactivism cool, assumed, and normal, right? It should be cool to be an intactivist. It should be assumed that you don't mutilate infants, right? It is normal. It's actually normal in the rest of the world. It's normal in a lot of Western states, like in Oregon. They don't merely circumcise their kids, one of the lowest rates. Another reason it's a good place to start. But it should be assumed, cool, assumed, and normal to be on our side, which it totally is, because why would you want to harm kids? Why would you want to cut up their sex organs? That's totally bizarre and wicked. Or it's just ignorant. So anyway, that's the lineup that we're going to have, that founders dinner. There's only 6 tickets left, actually. So, get on it if you want to be with kind of all the leaders and the heavy donors and the heavyweights, because that's where we can do like some of the more hardcore, not hardcore, but more intimate strategizing. It's also going to be a great dinner. And $300 for a dinner, it's a lot, but it's not like, prohibitively expensive, especially if this is your thing. So again, this is the conference. Go to intact.global/conference. That's the URL. Click buy early bird tickets, and you're going to get to Ticket Tailor, and get your tickets. And I look forward to meeting you there. So going back to some of the comments, and then we'll wrap up. So, it looks like we've got a lot of good comments. So again, I appreciate that, Vedantron. And you say you wish you could be there. I wish you could be there as well. Wish everyone on the stream comes. I know at least a fair number of you will be there, because I can see some of your names and comments. As Philosophy says, one is too many. Children cannot consent to this. 100% agree. And in America, female circumcision, totally illegal and abhorrent. I mean, male circumcision is totally abhorrent, but it's not yet illegal. As Maddie says, when you Google male genital mutilation, you get an article on circumcision. But when you search for female circumcision, you get an article on MGM. So if I were to Google male genital mutilation, I get something different, but it does say circumcision is the Wikipedia article, which is kind of nice, right? It's like, oh, so male genital mutilation is circumcision. But yeah, it's there's a lot of propaganda from the other side, and it's just something we're making progress. The rates are falling like precipitously, so we just got to keep going. Philosophy. Luckily, we have people like Eric who are actively advocating for our boys. I appreciate that. Also, intersex kids, but definitely our boys. They're the biggest at risk. We just need to stop this, and we need to stop it immediately. And I've always believed, and I genuinely believe, that we can stop this in a matter of years that you can count on one hand, right? We just need the proper organization, execution, and funding. And Intact Global can provide all that to the equation, right? I mean, we're creating a coalition with other leading nonprofit groups, right? And if you're a nonprofit group, we want you, in the coalition, right? We'll definitely want to work together. We certainly won't work against you, and we trust you'll do the same. As Philosophy says, all 6 boys in my family are intact. I'm so sorry for all the beautiful baby boys and intersex people still being hurt. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it is a tragedy. And children are dying. They're bleeding out, dying of infections too. They're being sexually maimed for life. It's just, it is a travesty. It is so unnecessary. As Maddie says, more than ADJ biting and caustic in thought, manner, or speech. Not totally sure what that refers to. We should be able to criticize abusive practices regardless of who is doing it. Totally agree. I mean, there's no reason that male circumcision, female circumcision, or the genital mutilation of children should be treated differently. Unfortunately, there are 330 million women who have been generally cut, and about 1.7 billion or 1.4 billion males. So maybe like 5 times as many. But it's still terrible. We shouldn't be cutting any minors. It's totally nuts. Numbers mean nothing. Pictures are more powerful. That's true, and stories are more powerful too. So. That's why I did an American Love Story. Right? So yeah, numbers do. I mean, they mean something, and they express the magnitude of the harm, but they're not emotionally appealing. There are more circumcised women than American women. Well, that's true, because there are 330 million circumcised women, according to a chat I read, which must be true, and there's probably 160, 70 American women. So. Or American females. Have you ever thought of doing a YouTube ad? Maddie, you're totally right. And I actually did a YouTube ad. And I might be in my email. But as I said earlier, I haven't checked my emails today because I've been too busy. But yeah, we're working with a professional editing company, replay.co, and we put in some materials to put out a YouTube ad for the conference. And so I need to probably check tomorrow, because I'm a little too tired to do more work tonight. But I had my paralegal actually queue that up and submit it. Paralegal is, it's not necessarily a fair topic or a fair title, because I think he's much more than that. But that's, that is the title that fits. So yeah, we're going to check that out, maybe publish it tomorrow if it's good to go, but certainly hopefully by the end of the weekend. Men deserve better, absolutely, and it is Medicaid fraud, and maybe we'll sue on that again, and I'll join you this time, Peter, because I'm obviously an attorney now. Clopper attack dog, symbolic. Yeah. Yeah, my attack dog, I mean, he's epic. So anyone who visits me in Los Angeles, you'll see. He's a friendly pupster, but just, make sure you're friendly too, because he's very good at picking up on context. As Dylan says, get on Joe Organ, also known as Rogan. When Fortune starts human trials, then it will be the right time. Well, I think there's a lot of big stuff coming up. We got the human trials coming up. I mean, we'll see. I mean, they raised 100,000, which, that's a good chunk of change. At the same time, that wouldn't practically open a lab in America. So they're doing most of their work in Italy, is my understanding. And so, 100,000 goes a lot further there. So hopefully, maybe they can make some progress. So I don't know when that's going to start, but also we're going to sue Oregon in practically a month, right? Like 32 days or something. So, definitely attend the conference. God bless. That goes amazing. Good night. Bummer not to be there, but so thankful you'll be streaming. I think that is really important. Yeah, we're going to stream the conference too. So, if you can't make it, we're going to have the conference streamed, and we're going to professionally film everything too. So, these streams are good because you can interact, but professional filming, it's going to be 1080p, if not 4K, nicely edited. It's going to be great. And we need to make sure doctors lose money instead of make money from cutting babies. So, so that's really the thing. So, personally, it was a comparison to female circumcision that made me think about it differently. I think that's how you get the mushy middle to move. Yeah, well, that's what we're doing with these lawsuits. We're saying, look, you already protect baby girls from genital cutting. Why don't you protect baby boys? And not only why don't you, your Constitution guarantees equal protection on the basis of sex. So it actually violates the Constitution, the state constitution, to not protect all children equally on the basis of sex. That's the crux of the legal argument. So, so definitely go to intact.global/conference, get your ticket. Like this stream, subscribe to my page. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the time the conference comes around. We've got some big media lined up, certainly right after the conference as well. And the conference is going to be, it's going to be historic launch to the end game of this movement. I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic to meet you there. I'm happy you joined the stream, and yeah, join the stream tomorrow. Love you guys, and you know, I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll see you in Portland, Oregon, hopefully. Get your ticket. And there's only 6 tickets left for the Founders Dinner. So if you're really into it, you know, those are going to sell out soon.